Hello everyone, my name is Alice Bleethman. I'm a dietitian and nutritionist, and today I'll be going through a webinar about eating for a healthy gut, what exactly it means to eat for a healthy gut, what even is a healthy gut, and some strategies to improve our gut health if you think that your gut health is not optimal already. So a quick note about me. My name is Alice, as I mentioned. I'm an accredited practicing dietitian and nutritionist in Sydney, Australia. I am a dietitian at Gut Started Nutrition and Dietetics. I have experience in a whole host of gastrointestinal conditions such as IBS, IBD, celiac disease, but also have a keen interest in women's health and emotional eating as well. So today we will go through whether your gut is healthy or not and how to tell, what it actually means to have a healthy gut, a quick note on the microbiome, foods for a healthy gut, and also some non-food related strategies as well. So a question I get asked often in clinic is my gut healthy? And how do I know if my gut is healthy? And it's a really good question. Before I go into that, I just want to give a bit of an insight into what your gut actually is. Now, a lot of people think your gut is just your large intestine, which is fair enough, considering that a lot of our gut health is focused on the large intestine, or at least in the social media space. But our gut actually refers to everything from our mouth to our anus. And essentially, it's our digestive system that governs the digestion of food and absorption of nutrients. It does a whole host of other things, but that's essential nuts and bolts of it. Now, it includes things like your esophagus, which is where the food goes down in the middle of your lungs, as you can see in this diagram here. Your stomach, your liver, your pancreas. Then you've got your small intestine and large intestine, and it finishes up at your rectum or your anus. There's a whole host of other organs involved, but that's the gist of it. So what is a healthy gut? I look at a healthy gut twofold. You've got a symptom-free gut, so a gut that's free of excessive bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, etc. And then you've got a healthy gut microbiome. So a quick note on the microbiome. I'm sure a lot of people have been seeing the phrase there around on the news or social media or other people who've been talking about it. Essentially, it's the genetic material of all the microbes. The gut microbiome is the genetic material of all the microbes in our gut, but the human microbiome is the genetic material of all the microbes that live on and inside the entirety of the human body. And that's not bacteria. That's not just bacteria, sorry. That's also things like fungi, protozoa, viruses, parasites. So it's a really, really interesting and fascinating world, and we don't know a whole heap about it, but essentially that's the gist of it. Now, the microbiota is bacteria, fungi, viruses, parasites, protozoa that make up the microbiome, so make up that genetic material. Now, the role of the microbiome is still being researched, and we don't actually understand it that well. But we do know that it has some component or plays some role in the digestion of food. So fermentation of fibre, for example, production of beneficial compounds like free fatty acids, regulation of the immune system, modulation of the nervous system, and it can also impact our mood. But what does this have exactly to do with gut health? We know that healthy bugs equal a healthy gut. Now, is there a good guy? Is there a good gut bug versus a bad gut bug? And yes, to an extent. You see, there are good and gut microbiomes, but just like most people, the behavior of the microbiome or a good gut versus a bad gut or a bad microbe can be good or bad depending on the environment it sees itself in. So think of it like this way. Plants in the Amazon would be bad in the Sahara Desert, just like plants in the Sahara Desert would be bad in the Amazon. This doesn't inherently make them bad plants. It just means that the Sahara Desert isn't a great environment for the plants that live in the Amazon. So how do we get the ideal microbiome then? Firstly, like fingerprints, no two people have the same gut microbiome, and therefore there's no real ideal microbiome. But despite this, and although there's no specific ideal microbiome or an ideal blueprint, every person has what we kind of call a health-associated microbiome for everyone. So that means that there's an optimal gut microbiome that's right just for you. And if you look after your microbiome with plenty of plant-based foods and among other strategies, we will discuss later, you can cultivate your own microbiome that's optimal for you, essentially. So now we'll just go into foods for a healthy gut. Now this is a bit of a healthy gut CV, which we'll go through today. We'll talk about fibre, plant-based diversity, pre and probiotics, fermented foods, and also healthy gut. Healthy fats. So the first one is fibre. Fibre is a type of carbohydrate, so one of the macronutrients along with fats and proteins. But unlike carbs, fibre can't actually be broken down in our gut. So instead, it continues down to the large intestine where our gut microbiome break it down, producing a whole host of beneficial compounds like short-chain fatty acids, as I mentioned before. But the benefits don't stop there. Due to its indigestible nature, fibre can also contribute to bulking out our poo, thicken the contents of our gut, and bind to compounds which help prevent or limit blood sugar spikes and also cholesterol. So where do you find this fibre? Like I mentioned, it's the indigestible part of plants, so you find it in plant foods, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, whole grains. So how much do we need? And the ideal number is still kind of under scrutiny and investigation, but the majority of guidelines suggest it's about 30 grams per day for health benefits. But this amount decreases our risk of cancers, diabetes, heart disease, and mood disorders. But there's actually some evidence to show that going beyond 30 grams to about 50 grams can reduce our risk even more. So here are a list of high fibre foods, and I apologise, I don't know why the pictures haven't come up for all of them, but as you can see, here they're popping up now. 1 cup of oats is about 3.3 grams of fibre, whereas an apple is about 4.5 grams of fibre. And as you can see here, a piece of brown bread's about 2, and the pear with skin's about 4.5. So a lot of different plant foods have a whole different amounts of fibre in them, but if you're having a lot of plant foods, then you're probably getting enough fibre in your diet. It's also important to note that it does take our large intestine some time to adjust and adapt to the increased load in fibre. So if you go too hard too soon, your gut microbiome can actually get a little bit carried away and leave us feeling a bit bloated and gassy. So the best way to avoid this is actually to start increasing your fibre gradually, say by a portion each day or each week. And it's also really, really important that we don't forget to hydrate as well with water, because essentially fibre needs water to work. So I'd usually suggest considering adding about an extra glass of water per extra portion of fibre, and that should do the trick. So the next tip I have is increasing plant-based diversity. Now, plant-based diversity is essentially just increasing the number of plants and the variety of plants that you have in your diet. Now, although, plants do contain a lot of fibre, which is brilliant, they also contain a beautiful amount of macro and micronutrients and also things like phytochemicals, which can also play a huge role in maintaining our gut health and just our physiological functions. So essentially, the more diverse our diet, the greater fibre diversity, the greater nutrient diversity, the better our gut health. So how do we increase our plant-based diversity? There's a whole host of ways we can do that. And I've just listed some here. Sprinkle mixed seeds on your oats or salad, and replace minced meat with lentils, for example, if you're having spaghetti bolognese. Eat the skin of your fruit and vegetables. So kiwi fruit skin can be eaten and is actually delicious and doubles the amount of fibre in the kiwi fruit if you eat the skin. Mix up your grains. So instead of having things like brown rice, have things like quinoa or bulgur. Adding pureed beans to soups and pasta. So for example, adding chickpeas or red beans. And make it a challenge. So maybe just challenge your friends and see how many numbers of different plants we can get in a week. The next tip I have is prebiotics. So this is the food that feeds our guts. And the way to think of it is like pre is before and biotic is life. So before life. So it feeds our gut bugs to give them life essentially. And the benefits, although they're still being investigated, we know that obviously it feeds our good gut bugs. It also improves blood sugar level control, improves immunity, and nutrient absorption as well. Now, most foods or foods high in fibre contain prebiotics, so you don't need to supplement with prebiotics. Some really, really good sources of prebiotics include things like apples, onions, garlic, artichokes, and also things like oats as well. So probiotics are the good gut bug. So pro meaning for and biotic meaning life. And the benefits we know, support optimal digestive health, promote healthy immune system, and also reduce the severity of mood disorders like anxiety and depression. A lot of people or a lot of companies support the use of probiotics, and although they can be good in some instances, generally speaking, most cases it's not really advisable. It's not like it's harmful, but we don't actually have a whole heap of evidence to support its use. It all comes down though to the specific condition and whether there is evidence to support that probiotic in that specific condition. We do know that there are foods high in probiotics, so things like yogurt, kefir, kombucha, and also some cheeses as well. A quick note on fermented foods. So these are basically foods or drinks that rely on microbes, so bacteria, fungi, yeast, and things to convert simple sugars into a final product. So they're things like sauerkraut and kimchi, kefir, yogurt, soy sauce, and of course kombucha. So there are possible benefits, and they are, the fact that they do contain live microbes, which we know could be beneficial for our health. It improves taste, texture, and digestibility of the product, can increase concentration of vitamins to an extent, and also contains some beneficial compounds like GABA. Now, a quick note of kombucha, because I know a lot of people ask me this in clinic, is despite its kind of recent rise in popularity, I don't necessarily advocate using kombucha as a way to improve our gut health. There's no studies to back up the current claims. It's not good, nor is it bad. It's just not necessarily something that I'd use to promote gut health. I love kombucha. I drink it instead of Coke. So if you're drinking it instead of having a Coke, then absolutely, it's lower in sugar, lower in calories, probably better for our teeth. But I wouldn't necessarily drink it with the idea of increasing or improving my gut health. So healthy fats. Fats are essential. They're really, really essential for us. They provide us with energy, physical protection, optimized brain function, the list goes on. And there are two sort of types of fats, I guess you could say. There's unsaturated and there's saturated fats. Now, the unsaturated fats include things like monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. Things like omega-3s and omega-6s. A lot of you may have heard this before. And then you got saturated fats. And the difference between these guys is essentially their chemical bonds. Saturated fats we know in abundance, or if we eat saturated fats in abundance over a long period of time, it can increase our risk of heart disease and things like high cholesterol. Unsaturated fats we know if we, eat them in an abundant amount, then we reduce our risk of heart disease and high cholesterol. But we also know that unsaturated fats can also improve mood and lead to beneficial changes in the gut microbiome by encouraging growth and diversity of good gut bugs. So if we increase or at least replace our intake of saturated fats to unsaturated fats, we are doing our gut some help. Now, I think it's really important to touch on, even as a dietitian, there are ways that we can improve our gut health that's not through food. Apologies. So gut health isn't just what you put in your mouth. There's so many other ways we can improve our gut health. That's essentially just reducing stress in the body, optimizing sleep, keeping active, reducing alcohol, and also avoiding smoking as well. So quickly to summarize, there's a whole range of things we can do to improve our gut health. Ultimately, we want to avoid unnecessary elimination of food because we want to improve our diversity of our diet, eat a variety of plant foods, make sure we're getting about 30 grams of fibre a day, eat pre and probiotics, and also reduce saturated fats and replace it with unsaturated fats. Of course, we need to drink plenty of water and limit alcohol, avoid smoking if we can, making sure we manage stress by getting enough sleep and keeping active, and just having a healthy diet and having great optimal well-being. So Marika Day did a talk on IBS, which I think would be really, really important and beneficial for everyone to listen to. It's all about how to improve symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, which do have some links to today's webinar as well. So if you're interested, go check it out. And if you're also interested, we've also got an Instagram page, a Facebook page, and a website for gut started nutrition and dietetics. We'd love for you guys to follow if you're interested in finding out more about just gut health or about nutrition in general. We've got a lot of good information on our Instagram and some awesome things on our website as well. If you're wanting to book in a consult with myself, you're more than welcome to head on to the website www.gut/started.com, and you can book in an online consult with me, or you can check out me in Sydney and have an in-person consult as well. Thank you all very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that.